The medical exam the medical examiner's office determined Jordan Neely's cause of death to be compression of neck chokehold. The only person next to Jordan Neely at that time is Daniel Penny. This means that Daniel Penny held Jordan Neely, a man who was actively fighting back, for 15 minutes in a chokehold. 15 minutes in a chokehold is a long-ass time. It's coincidentally 15 minutes longer than I last in bed. Right off the bat, I'd like to get some common defenses out of the way. I would like to say they're silly, but people believe them, and so I'd be disparaging their intelligence. So instead, I will say they are ill thought out. The first reason is that Jordan Neely was a criminal. This is insane for two options. Number one, is it okay to kill criminals? Is it okay if I go up to someone and kill them if it turns out they're a criminal? Of course not. If I shoot someone in the head and 10 years later, after I've been in prison for 10 years, it turns out that they also assaulted people, would I be let out of jail? No. It was murder, dumbass. Would he have acted differently against someone who wasn't a criminal? No, because he didn't have any idea whether Jordan Neely was a criminal or not. So not only is it silly to say we should kill criminals, but it's absurd to say that Daniel Penny somehow knew that Jordan Neely was a criminal. The fact that Jordan Neely did assault people in the past is completely irrelevant to the fact that he was chokeholded for 15 minutes and died. Another thing people will say is that Daniel Penny didn't truly mean to kill Jordan Neely. How does that make it better? Like, that almost makes it worse. If I swerve to avoid a rat as I drive down the goddamn interstate and there's a child on the side of the road, and I hit the child and the child dies, if I go to the judge and I say, Your Honor, it was actually an accident, and therefore I shouldn't be charged for killing someone. No, just because it was an accident, it was still murder. In this case, it's going to be charged as manslaughter. But I still killed the kid, and I'm still going to get punished for it, whether it was an accident or not. Finally, the most egregious example, because this is just outright lying. Like, did they read anything? Is that Jordan Neely was threatening other passengers. I don't mean threatening as being a big, scary black guy. What I mean is they claim that Jordan Neely said, I'm going to kill you, or stuff along that, and then seems to be about to act on that. This is insane, because this never happened. Jordan Neely never did that. There is no eyewitness account that corroborates that claim. The only person, actually, who says that Jordan Neely was a threat to other passengers was Daniel Penny, the guy who killed him. And so then I'm asking myself, okay, so if Daniel Penny, like, is he lying? And like, what reason could he possibly have to lie about the situation? I don't know. It's disturbing. It's crazy. The publicly available facts paint a very clear picture of murder, just like black and white. Maybe further information will come out later that says that this is wrong. You know, maybe there's facts out there that we don't know yet. And maybe the only people who would know would be the grand jury that indicted him. So whatever those facts are, the grand jury still thinks he's guilty. And who are we, with people without facts, to say otherwise, right? Like when Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, I don't know, Tucker Carlson go on there and be like, Daniel Penny's innocent. How in the world are they going to know more than the goddamn grand jury? The people who get all of the information, who still decided that he was manslaughter. So why can't the left be right? Like, why are they insisting that no, Daniel Penny, this murderer, is actually innocent when every defense they've given is just wrong? And I think the answer is really interesting because it's easier, I guess, in an analogy. Imagine that you were in an abusive relationship that unfortunately your partner just lost their job. And so you have to get a job and provide for the household. Now, this abuser of yours has cut you off from everyone, friends, family, any lifeline, any outside connections. So when you go to work, these coworkers are the first outside connections you've had in a long time. This poses a problem for your abuser because these coworkers can point out things like red flags in an abusive relationship. So how does your abuser keep you in their control even while you're gone? So that no matter what happens, you don't trust anything other people say. All you have to do as the abuser is say, hey, they're all lying. Come to me, ask me, and I can tell you what's true. I am the ultimate arbiter of truth in this world. As long as you come to me and ask, I will answer truthfully and everything will be fine. Clearly, there's a concern that the coworkers might say something and then you'll leave the abuser. But not only that, the abuser relies on you for money. Their livelihood is entirely dependent on you staying in the relationship. This sounds a lot like some right-wing ideologues. Not only are they dependent upon your money and views, but if even for a second you get waylaid, for even a second you look left and you see, maybe AOC does have a point, just in general, just one, in her whole life. Maybe she has one single good point. Well, now maybe you're more likely to listen to her in the future, and less likely to listen to Ben, less likely to listen to Tucker. It's imperative, when your side relies on misinformation, that you don't ever let the other side get a word. What will happen is the right-wing ideologues, they'll come and they'll say, hey, don't even listen. Don't watch the speeches. Don't read the articles. Don't read the tweets. All that matters is that you come to me I'll tell you what they said, and I'll tell you why it's wrong. I would like you to watch this video from Ben Shapiro. It's a short clip, like 10 minutes, watch that triple speed or whatever you want. In the same, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, he describes Jordan Neely's actions as threatening other passengers.
Somebody might headlock the guy who is violently threatening a bunch of people, including women, on the subway system.
Before, literally within the same video, a few minutes later, he goes that Jordan Neely was harassing other passengers.
And then he shows up next on the subway harassing people, where he's put into a submission hold by Daniel Penny.
Anyone who looks at that and thinks about that will see, so threatening, okay, maybe, which this is a lie, by the way, there was no threatening, but maybe it was worth it. Maybe someone to help, maybe the fear was there and that it was a terrible accident, but at least the guy who was threatening, wasn't allowed to threaten anymore. But then when you start with that, to get people to immediately believe that deadly action was justified, and then to say harassed, no one would ever in a million years think that harassment deserved the death sentence. By framing it with threatening first, and then downgrading to harassment, which is way closer to the truth, you are already predisposed to think that Jordan Neely is a bad person, and that what he was doing was bad. Ben Shapiro's team is too large and too competent to not check that. Ben Shapiro is presumably smart enough. His wife's a doctor. He's presumably smart enough to catch that and realize that what he's saying was just, wrong. In that same video, he will say, everyone else is lying, let me tell you the truth. And then rather than the truth, rather than the facts of the case, which he will not touch, he will instead say, Jordan Neely was a criminal, and he has past convictions of assault. How is that the truth, then? How is that the truth of what happened? How does Jordan Neely's past history of assault at all influence Daniel Penny's decision to kill the guy? That leaves two equally depressing outcomes for Benny Boys and his team. Either they're so incompetent that they just don't even know what they're talking about, and also they missed Ben Shapiro contradicting himself in the same video, or they're okay with that because their goal is to spread hate. Choose for yourself which is worse. If they're saying don't look at the opposition, then they're just gonna lie about the opposition and you'll never know. Don't fall for it. I'm brain broken, man. I'm watching Ben Shapiro. I'm looking at his thumbnails and I have to force myself to click on them. I choke down to vomit as I look at the same 10 Ben Shapiro faces